What is the scariest thing you've ever seen while driving at night? A 6-foot kangaroo standing in the middle of a pitch black road at 3 AM in the morning, missed it by a bee stick. Fun fact, bee sticks explode during sex. So does mine. Still intact then huh? I slammed the brakes once because I saw a deer in my peripheral vision. Upon closer inspection, it was a mounted deer head on a stick in the middle of the woods. Slammed the gas after I realized that might have been a setup by game wardens to catch illegal poachers at night. What do they do? Sit somewhere and watch, or do they usually have cameras set up? A lonely abandoned shack with a bunch of arrows pointing to it, saying come in. Bruh, although these types of traps only exist in cartoons. With a bowl of seeds labeled free bird food, see, no one really notices the big boulder over the bowl. Meep meep. A dead, butchered horse laying in the road. Someone had completely skinned and butchered a horse, took the choice pieces of meat, and just dumped it on the highway. I almost crashed into it. WTF. Frogs. Fucking everywhere, like hundreds of frogs all over the road. Damn it Moses. Damn it Kermit. Driving to work at 4:30 AM and seeing a cyclist with his head split open and brains on the road. Hold up, what? I was driving home late one night and was driving on a dark stretch of the highway. Suddenly a body was in front of me. I tried to swerve out of the way, but it was too late. My bumper was hanging on the ground. The guy died, and I went to a nearby gas station not knowing what to do. Was 18. When the tow truck pulled my car up onto it, there were a bunch of blood and guts on the bottom. I couldn't get that image out of my head. Apparently a drunk driver with 5 dwees had hit a guy on the motorcycle prior. 4 years after I had serious depression and thought about it every night before sleep. That's awful. I can't imagine that. So sorry. Thank you. I think for the most part I've gotten past it, but it was rough for a long time, and was hard to deal with everyday life. When times are hard, it's hard to hope, and though you've worked with care to cope, I know you know, but all the same, it's plain to see you're not to blame. I used to deliver pizza, and often had deliverers right at midnight when we closed. One time, late at night, I'm driving back to the store through a small neighborhood. Up ahead I see something. It's perfectly spherical bright/shiny thing, just hovering about 6 feet off the ground, not moving at all. I pull up very slowly, still doesn't move, still can't comprehend what I'm looking at. Just this shiny hovering orb in the road at midnight. At this point my curiosity has overridden my fear. I'm the guy in the horror movie who dies first, because I just gotta know. Either I die, or I get a cool story, right? So I hop out of the car, and slowly walk up to it. I'm right in front of it, and still can't understand what I'm seeing. So I reach out and touch it. It's a balloon. One of those foil birthday balloons with the street lights shining on it, making it look weird out of context in the middle of the night on an empty road. This is my favorite response, because it feels like exactly how I would react. I was driving on the expressway around 2 AM and a semi hit a car, and it went into the median. The car basically folded into itself, and was beyond smashed. I can't imagine that person survived. It was incredibly sad, and terrifying to see. Before my parents moved to where I am, I'd often visit my hometown up north. A 10-hour drive all on the same highway. Made that trip several times and there was almost always some tragic crash at least once during the drive. I'm not super religious, but I got in the habit of saying a prayer for them and their families. Hate seeing that. That's a long drive. It's really terrifying to see crashes like that, because it really could happen to anyone. A hitchhiker almost leaping out in front of my car on a dark forest road late at night. The woman literally popped out of nowhere, had to drift into the oncoming lane. Luckily there was no one else, and painted median there. Read a police report that she ended up getting hit minutes after I drove by. She was intoxicated and running from the police. Pretty fucking creepy. I hope she's alright. I can't imagine what the driver that hit her was thinking. Had a similar thing, but it was a suicide attempt. He put his shirt over his head so he couldn't see and jumped out in front of our car. We missed him by inches. Also we were young, dumb and drunk. We would have been jailed for years I'm sure. Having someone jump in front of my car is one of my greatest fears. Anytime there's someone walking along the side of the road I get tense and watch them like a hawk. The psychological stress something like that would bring is unimaginable for me, not to mention the potential of getting in legal trouble if the law found you at any sort of fault. That happens to me, except with dogs instead. I'm terrified that a dog will suddenly run out into the road in front of my car. Killer clown on the side of a deserted country road during the 2016 clonepocalypse. I think I cried. Why was a clonepocalypse a thing? Why would someone go around with a knife and a clown costume at night? Why? I remember hearing a rumor that it was supposed to be viral marketing for the upcoming It movie, but some idiots played along and took it too far. Why too far? People were shot over that. An elementary school in my town went on lockdown for hours because a kid at recess apparently claimed to see a clown in the tree line at the edge of the school's field. Thank God that didn't last long. NGL, the kid was probably full of it. Yo, fuck this multiplication drill, I got an idea. A closed Waffle House. Dear God. I was on I-70 in Colorado going towards Utah. Pulled over at a gas station at 8 p.m. Fueling up, I noticed a couple of attractive women pumping gas. On the other side of the pump was the man in his late 40s, just staring at these young women without notice of anything else going on around him. I walk inside to go grab some food for the next few hours of driving. When I come out, I see both the younger women's car and the older man's truck are gone. I decided to hang out at the gas station for the next hour to catch a little sleep before hitting the road again. After driving for a few hours, I was speeding heavy. I pull over at yet another gas station. The young women are there getting gas and eating some food on a picnic table. Looked like they had been there for a while. I didn't see any sign or the man in the truck, but can't say I was looking very hard for it. Well, here is where it got creepy as hell. Can't say I didn't stare at them a bit. I mean, they were good looking women. As I'm watching them leave, I see in the next parking lot over some headlights turn on, and it's the same man as before. He leaves when the women leave once again. Okay, that's a bit weird, but could just be a coincidence as there weren't many places to pull over. I leave a few minutes later and catch up to them. Now this guy's riding their ass with his high beams on. I decided to slow down and stay a distance behind the truck. 10 minutes or so later, the women pull over once again to most likely get this guy off their ass. With a sign of relief, the truck keeps going, and I continue on my way. About 1 mile down the road, the guy just pulls off to the side of the highway. So I pull off a mile or so down the road again. Sure enough, the women drive by and the guy is still following them. At this point, we are out in the middle of nowhere and too many coincidences have happened. I called the cops to alert them, and about 15 minutes the cops pulled the guy over. I could have just seen too many horror movies that started like this and overreacted, but you never know. Better safe than sorry. We appreciate you. While traveling east just outside Flagstaff, Arizona around midnight, I was in the fast lane doing about 80 miles per hour. There was a bend in the road and you could see the headlights of the westbound lanes filter in between the trees. It was funny, because I thought the lights kinda looked like they were coming at me. Then they really were. I screamed obscenities and jerked the wheel just in time to let a speeding wrong way driver fly by me in the lane I was just in. After skidding to a stop in the shoulder, I called the cops to report it. Could you describe the vehicle? Yes. It was a dark blur with headlights. Wait, did they literally go through the median filled with trees? How does that even happen? I got off on my exit, and the whole road was covered in blood. I put on my brights and saw a bisected body of a large animal. It just made me so sad. This is like a weekly occurrence on me highways. It terrified me. I have never seen a large animal torn in half. I don't know if this is really scary, but it definitely freaked me out for a moment. Driving home from grad lab for a couple hours of sleep, about 4 in the morning, longish, time sensitive experiment, not dawn yet, still pitch black, turn a corner, and suddenly, someone runs into the street right in front of my car, and, stops. I stop. I wait. They don't move. Cautiously, I try to drive around. They scream, run up and slam their hands on the hood of my car. With them so close, I realize they are totally naked and filthy. They stare at me for a moment, then proceeds to run in wide circles, kinda listing to one side than the other, in front of my car. After about 2 minutes of this, he lists hard to one side. Far enough I felt safe quickly driving around them. Very wide. On the other side, that was now open. Meth man. The superhero we don't need, and the one we didn't ask for. Meth man. Faster than a speeding cop. More awake than anyone else at 3:48 AM. Meth man. Help. Someone has run off with my purse. Meth man grabs the purse from the thief and continues running off at twice the speed. Meth man can hone in on the scent of the laboratory carried by graduate students. Someone I knew locally came across a Jeep that had just crashed into the ditch on a highway at night. Flipped on its top, wheels still turning kind of thing. He was the first on scene, so-called 911, and ran down into the ditch. The driver, who was badly mangled, had been tossed from the car and was dying. This guy held him, and the driver died in his arms. The weirdest part of it all was that he found out the next day that it was his cousin, but he hadn't been able to recognize him. I hope the guy who died was comforted by knowing a family member was with him. I think just to be held by anyone, sometimes it's all we can do for each other. Dad was driving at night, and I was looking out the window and saw 2 red pinpricks in the cornfield, and it followed us. I told my dad about it and he said, in the most calm, casual tone for this situation, "Those are cornfield demons. Stay in the car and you'll be okay." Cue me freaking the hell out when he got out of the car not too long after to check a tire before getting back in. I'm still not sure if that was an actual thing or if he was using a situation to his advantage to teach me to not do anything stupid like that at night. Either ways, it worked, and I still have no idea what those 2 pinpricks were. Your dad is epic. He used to tell stories like that all the time to teach me to stay out of places I shouldn't belong. Lol. I guess he figured simply telling me no wouldn't suffice. One of the other stories he told was about this native named Cottonmouth, who was a great warrior who dipped his arrows in cottonmouth venom, hence his name, and one day he snapped and went on a mass murder spree until someone took him out with one of his own arrows. He said that now, if you're caught in the woods alone, if you hear hoofbeats, Cottonmouth is coming to get ya. Living in an area where people rode horses plus deer, I believe this 100%. The one time I strayed too far while playing, and zoop, back in the yard I went. A great warrior who dipped his venom in Cottonmouth venom. Yo Cottonmouth, I heard you liked venom, so we dipped your venom in venom. It's the people riding deer who really fucked me up. I was following a grey Toyota Tundra in a massive blizzard through Montana on McDonald Pass. He was going pretty quick most of the way, but must have been unfamiliar with how steep the final few miles are. He got away from me as I slowed down to about 35. Not 5 minutes later I passed his tire marks in the fresh snow that went off the side of the mountain. Pulled over and looked down to see his truck upside down and on fire about 300 yards down. Called 911. He didn't die, but was burnt up pretty bad. Sad and scary, and don't go 50 in the snow just because you have a truck or 4WD. I've heard it said before, but I'll say it again. 4-wheel drive isn't 4-wheel stop. More weight may mean more traction, but also means more inertia. Removed. Well, that's why the rumble strips are there. I thought it was so blind people can gauge where they are in the lane. I was fetching someone from his workplace, had to go through some fields, and some parts of the road were dark. I saw a thin, long object, wiggling at an upright position at the side of the road in front of me. Totally freaked me out. I thought I was finally experiencing something extraordinary. As I got closer I realized it was a tail of a cow. It must have escaped from some field, and was hanging around at the side of the road. The cow itself was black, the tail slightly lighter in color. That's why I only saw the tail moving first without seeing the whole cow first. Oh my. Yes dear, that's just old Bess's bottom, not a ghost worm. I was a very young woman driving home after clubbing, about 2 AM through Hollywood. I was pulling up to a stop sign on Cahuenga, about 3 blocks from Hollywood Boulevard, when a bunch of guys begin to casually stroll onto the crosswalk, coming from both sides. I hit the gas and ran the stop sign without even thinking. They cursed and ran after me, but those boys were ready to jack me. My instincts took over before I even realized what was happening. Yo, that is some serious shit. A body in the ditch. Thought it was a deer as I approached, and then my brain was like, deer don't wear boots. I was shaking as I did a U-turn to make sure the person was alive. They were just drunk and some people stopped as well, and emergency was called. I was so shaken up by it. I dropped my GF off the night we saw The Mothman Prophecies. It wasn't a super scary movie, but it had some scares. I take the interstate home. On the way, there is a curve where there aren't any lights, just a dark stretch of interstate. As I came around the bend, There was a guy in a black trench coat walking along the side of the road. As it was about 3 AM, I guess I started him. So, when my headlights hit him, he whipped around, and I swear he stared me right in the eyes. My heart jumped into my throat. The whole event lasted maybe 2 seconds tops, but it had my heart racing. Not paranormal, but definitely scary for me. I picture him whipping around like that old dramatic chipmunk meme. Driving down at a lane divided highway, I came up to a couple semis, and went into the left lane to pass. I did a shoulder check, to get back into the right lane, when I saw headlights in front of me, in my lane. The car was going the wrong way. I managed to swerve into the ditch. Felt like I was mere centimeters from death. Thought my wife's scream would be the last thing I ever hear, and I never want to hear it again. The semis I passed all pulled to the shoulder, to come check on us. Didn't see the car anywhere. I think they just kept going. Had to pull into a gas station after and collect myself. Actually very nice of those semis, to check on you guys. Truckers are either the nicest people on the road or the biggest serial killer assholes. No in between. An asshole overtaking a petrol tanker around a blind corner, coming my way, scared the shit out of me. 3 AM on a lonely road, and I was the passenger. An old man only wearing a bra, panties and high heels was casually walking down the road. My friend who was driving didn't believe me and went back around. Sure enough, he saw him, and we were like WTF. Gotta pay the bills somehow. Oh, I've got the perfect thing. Driving home one night from my fiance's house. Normal night on the Florida highway. It's pretty dark. Not too many lights. Cruising at around 75 headed over a slight hill. Just big enough that you can't see the other side. Get to the top and start making my way down the hill. And very suddenly in my headlight view I get a giant construction vehicle with all of its lights turned off and parked in the left lane of the highway. I really, seriously, pray to God that no one hit that parked construction vehicle. It was one of the ones that digs up dirt, I think, on the highway that day. I very narrowly avoided smacking right into the back of that thing. I don't know how the Cherokee I was driving at the time handled the sharp turn I made into the right lane to avoid the vehicle. Needless to say I was very nearly dead. Immediately called Florida Highway Patrol and told them about it. I hope they got to it before someone got hurt. And I really hope someone at that construction company lost their job, because they could have killed multiple people. Normal night on the Florida highway. Terrifying. There are no normal nights on the Florida highway. I drove taxi during the night shift, and among many crazy and terrifying things, I saw a toddler, 3 years. It was about 1 AM, and I was driving in a very wooded part of our town, just after dropping a customer off, and in the middle of the road was this baby just sitting in the dark. I stopped my cab and turned on my flashers. I proceeded to walk up to the kid and he just started bawling. I tried to comfort him, but me being in disbelief that a baby with no one around was just sitting there, all I could say was it's cool bro. I picked him up and he started crying frantically. I would too if a stranger came and grabbed me. I put him in the passenger seat and looked for the nearest driveway. It ended up being about 100 yards down the street. I pulled up into what I hoped was his house, and there was maybe 6 or 7 teenagers drinking in the garage. I couldn't see from the road because all the houses had long dirt driveways. When I pulled up they acted as if I wasn't even there until I said, "Hey, this your kid?" After a few whats, they came over to the cab and said, "Aiden, where did you go?" Like the baby just goes for midnight strolls. Not a thank you or goodbye or anything. They just took the baby in the house and continued drinking and laughing. As I pulled out I felt as if I should call the cops or something, but couldn't bring myself to do it. I'm still scared to this day that I'll be driving down a dark road and hit a baby. You really should have called the cops, bro. I told this story before, but one time I was driving with my girlfriend through Wisconsin on the way back home. It was really late, like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I stopped at a gas station to fill up. My GPS ended up putting me on a small highway instead of the expressway right away after leaving there, but I didn't want to complicate things more, so I just followed it. My girlfriend was sleeping, so I had the radio off and drove in silence on this really dark, creepy highway. There were deer crossing signs, so I was driving extra cautious because a family friend had recently hit a deer in their truck, which did quite a number on it and also caused her to break her arm from the impact. I saw there was a pretty sharp curve coming up, so I slowed down to make it carefully, and as I'm turning I see a figure exiting the darkness of woods. It's a large mountain lion, with blood stained all over the front of its face. scared the fuck out of me. I pulled up just after the turn and tried to wake my girlfriend up. I could see its large shadow make its way across the road in my rearview mirror, but by the time my girlfriend woke up it was gone. She had lived in Wisconsin most of her life and immediately dismissed my claims that it was a mountain lion because they are not really from that area. I told her I know what I saw, but she insisted that I was seeing things. I acted like she was probably right and continued the trip back, but I know what I saw. It's well known now among biologists that a couple dozen mountain lions move through Wisconsin every year. They don't stay there, rather they are almost always young males dispersing and moving to new areas of territory in the nearby states. You were very lucky to see one, as scary as it was. When people say there's no mountain lions in Wisconsin, they mean there's no populations that live there year round, but they move through seasonally. Are mountain lions just another name for panthers? When I visit Florida I see panther crossing signs everywhere in Fort Myers and Sarasota. I don't like to go jogging in my aunt's neighborhood because she's surrounded by thick forests, and I'm always afraid there's a panther lurking somewhere in there. Yes, they have quite a few names. According to Wikipedia, the cougar, also commonly known by other names including catamount, mountain lion, panther, and puma,